Hello, May class, and welcome to your next science lesson. In today's lesson, we will be looking at the following. We're going to decide whether we could consider some of the natural changes that could happen in an environment and what some living things could do to survive these changes. So we're going to be having a look at this today. So let's carry on. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to think about the changes within our environment and design a living thing that could survive in a huge range of changes. So it should be quite a fun lesson. And we should also begin to think about big changes in our world, like climate change. So a little bit about environments. Environments change. So environments don't always stay the same. Sometimes they can change naturally and over time, and sometimes humans can change them. So we spoke a couple lessons ago about the rainforest. We also looked at it in our spag lesson when we were discussing the cotton-top tamarins, about how their environment that they live in is changing because the trees are all being cut down. So that's something that obviously the humans, we have something to do with that, but environments can also change naturally over time. Most natural changes happen regularly and do not pose a danger to the living things. Living things have special adaptations, okay, that allow them to survive the changes. And I want you to stop and think for a moment. Think about what some living things have to do to cope with winter. So not all living things cope with winter the same. So we're a living thing, and for us, if it's very, very cold outside, we tend to stay somewhere really warm. Whereas there's animals that are quite capable of living within the snow and within the cold quite happily. Other animals may hibernate for winter, so stock up food and then stay somewhere really warm. So not all living things cope the same way with winter. Think about some changes to an environment that happen naturally. So how can things change naturally? And like we said earlier, they happen maybe regularly and don't pose a danger to the living things. What natural changes to our environment do you see? So did you mention these environmental changes? So when you were thinking, did you think about these? Seasons. So our environment changes due to seasons. So in summer, things are much warmer, the sun is out, the trees are lovely and green. In spring, obviously new flowers are forming. In winter, a lot of the trees and plants or flowers lose their leaves. So they change to go with the winter. So the seasons are a natural thing that occur every year that change our environment. The tides. So the tides are obviously the water that's coming in and going out on the ocean, and those can change they can change the environment, because obviously sometimes you'll have a bigger tide come in, they'll pull things out, they'll bring things in. So change environmentally can happen due to the tides coming in and out. Volcanoes erupting. That's not something that's man-made. Again, that's a natural environmental thing that occurs, and it obviously changes the environment, because when the volcano erupts, everything that comes out would then destroy the environment around the volcano. And we've learned about all of that when we looked at volcanoes. Night and day. Night and day have a way of affecting our environment. So obviously when the sun goes down, other animals would come out, more animals would go to sleep, depending. You'd have different types of animals, different things occur because we have the sun up or the moon up, depending on whether it was night or day. Extreme weather. So extreme weather, like things like flooding or very, very dry, a very big dry spell. So it's dry for a long period of time with no rain. that would affect your environment. If there was flooding, that would also affect your environment, because it would obviously change how things are, because too much water can be a bad thing. It would change, it could knock over some trees, it could submerge a lot of things with water. So those are extreme weather patterns, and those obviously are also natural things that occur, and then they change our environment. So how do some living things adapt to natural changes in their environment? I want you to choose the correct answer in each scenario. So I'm going to give you that follows. During winter, much of Canada is covered in snow to hide from predators. A snowshoe hare, like this one down here, will do the following. Will he hibernate or change from having brown fur to white fur? So give it a pause and give it a choice. Do you think he's going to go hibernate, or do you think his fur is going to change color? If you think it's going to change color, why do you think it would change color? Why would it change to white fur? At night, a tulip flower closes up. Is that to stop the dew from getting the pollen wet, or to protect it from frost? Which one do you think? Actually, scientists aren't really sure why, but both of these theories are considered a possibility. So actually, they think that it could be a bit of both. One to stop the pollen from getting wet, and one to protect the flower from frost. Dormice, like these ones, survive the cold winter by, do they hibernate for 6 months, or do they grow thicker hair? What do you think? To cope with less available food during winter, a squirrel will fatten up over summer so it doesn't need to eat, or will it spend the summer and autumn storing food for the winter months? Right, so now we're going to have a look at our answers. So the snowshoe hare and the tulip were both, the answers were number 2. So let's have a look. Our dormouse was 1 and our squirrel was 2. So 2, let's go back. The answer to the snowshoe hare was that it changes from having brown fur to white fur. And this one we said that it's actually, they think it might be both. This one we said was 1. So dormice survive the cold winter by hibernating, which means they go to sleep for 6 months and stay warm. And then the last one, to cope with less available food during winter, a squirrel will spend summer and autumn storing food for the winter months. So he'll store it away so that he doesn't have to go and find food in winter, but it'll all be in the one place where they can go and survive for the whole winter. So that is a picture of the snowshoe hare when he turns white. And I want you to have a look at the picture of the snowshoe hare and look at the snow that it's around, and give it a think of why you think his hair would change from brown to white if he was living in the snow. Your 3 tasks for today's lessons are as follows. Design a living thing, and it could be a plant or an animal that could survive all natural environmental changes listed in the introduction. So we'll go back and have a look, but you are going to be designing or describing your own animal. You're going to make it up that is able to survive in all the natural environments. In all natural environmental changes. You're going to label the parts that will help them survive. So for example, maybe he's got pockets to store food when their food source is scarce, so they can store up food in their little pockets. Maybe they can change color, just like the snowshoe hare. Maybe they can change color to match their environment, to keep them alive and to help them survive. So label the parts that will help them survive. And then I would like you, as a third task, to research the phrase climate change. What does climate change mean? Who or what will it affect? And I would like you to ask an adult in your home to read some information books or search on the internet and help you to find that out. Can you find out more about climate change and have a better understanding of who or what it affects and what does the word climate change mean? So we're just going to go back for task 2 so that I can show you, task 1, so I can show you some of the natural environmental changes that we may look at. And remember, we were looking at seasons, tides, volcanic eruptions, night and day, and extreme weather. And I spoke about flooding, extreme drought. Maybe it reaches really, really cold temperatures. Maybe it reaches really, really hot temperatures. Those would all be environmental changes. Don't forget to share your work with us on Tapestry. Please make sure to label your drawings, making sure your work is presented neatly. I'm really excited to see the animals or the plants that you create and that you come up with.